Good morning. It's very nice to be here. It's a beautiful Saturday morning after a beautiful week that was so dry on top of the dry month. So while we enjoy this incredible weather, because it does feel good after a cold winter, it's sobering as well. So they told me, the program folks, Linda and Laura, sort of told me what they'd like me to speak about, and I'm probably not going to actually stay on topic. I wear several hats. As Linda mentioned, I'm county supervisor for District 2, have been for the last 8 years. But I'm also, first and foremost, a daughter of a woman who served on the Marin Municipal Water District Board back in the 70s during the drought. So I am permanently scarred from having to, as a teenager, only have 37 gallons per person per day, and Mom took 30 of those to water the garden. And then I'm also, so I'm very water conscious. I'm also the granddaughter of George Melendez Wright, who some of you may have heard of, who was probably, on the forefront, just following the heels of Aldo Leopold and others who really recognized the importance of having of ecosystems and ecosystem health and balanced ecosystems. And then, those two bloodlines sort of flow through me. I'm not a scientist by trade. I'm an English major. So that means I think about communicating, and I think about how we relate to each other. And then with my supervisor hat on, as Linda mentioned, I've been involved in several of the programs that the county has launched at a large landscape scale around fire, around how fire mitigation and fuel load mitigation needs to marry up with a healthy landscape. Been involved sort of on the forefront of the more recent zero pesticide movement in the county, which really started way back in the 90s when the county was a leader in IPM practices. So with my supervisor hat on, I'm very conscious about how institutional practices that work in silos haven't always lined up in an integrated and holistic way, and yet the county has adapted those practices, and I'll tell two stories around them, at the large landscape scale, and then we have made efforts to bring them to the backyard landscape scale. So lastly, before I tell my two stories, this whole climate piece, the sobering feeling of having a very dry winter, which is not unusual for California. That can happen, but it feels just that much more sobering and needing to recognize, given we understand how our fire risk is so much more extreme now under climate change. I see when I'm feeling optimistic, which is this morning as opposed to cynical and pessimistic, we have to take these challenges, and climate is one of them, as an opportunity. And I think what this program is today, presenting you all with, and you probably are, I'm probably speaking to the choir, is talking about how do we use this climate threat and what climate's doing as an opportunity to really bring down to scale in our backyards, opposed to our large landscape, these principles of a healthy, balanced ecosystem. How do you have a fire-wise landscape that's a beautiful landscape? How do we help our citizenry understand we can be fire-wise, climate-wise, and community-wise? So my two stories, to just sort of highlight where the county, how the county has sort of progressed. About 8 years ago, in a community which I shall not name, involving a fire department which I shall not name, there was an unauthorized fuel reduction operation. And it was an operation. It was large scale, kind of mowing of a hillside that was not grass. It was other things. It was a pretty healthy sort of oak woodland, beautiful hillside. And it was open space district land, and it was an operation that was implemented by the local fire district. Well, the world blew up for some. I see people nodding their heads. Don't tell.
I won't tell.
Okay. Anyway, so I was sitting as supervisor, and we had our open space director go ballistic. We had the fire department go ballistic because they were trying to do what they thought was important work. The open space district not only had their jurisdiction been invaded, but their principles that they were trying to promote around how do you do fuel management in a way that is healthy for that landscape, that keeps does the fuel management, the vegetation management without decimating that landscape. So we embarked on a group therapy session that involved a fire chief, a department director. I'm gonna get the hook. You only get one story. And several other people from the fire community, and also folks from open space and the environmental community. And I called it therapy session because we met for many weeks. There was even one of those facilitators because we really needed help. Anyway, the outcome was after field trips out to sites where there was fuel modification being done. Examples of what was good fuel modification and not so good, and an understanding, having the open space folks get into the shoes of the fire folks who are trying to do their public safety mission, and fire folks getting into our open space folks' shoes in terms of trying to really manage and support and steward a resource. They came to an understanding, and they understood better about how to move forward and how to move forward together cooperatively, and taking both missions forward and doing mission-wise together what they were doing separately and in a way that they could all embrace. And we have not had an incident like that since. So that kind of thinking, working, cooperating, understanding is what we need to bring down to the backyard landscape scale. You guys are all probably here in the choir. We have a lot of people out in the community who are very afraid of fire, but also love their landscapes and don't understand that they can have a beautiful landscape that's fire-wise and incredibly healthy as well. And I ask you to take as much out of this conference as you can and take it back out to our backyards and help this community not only create that healthy backyard landscape and ecosystem, but also really address our fire risk, which I can tell you is off the charts. And so vote for Measure C. That's right. Yes on Measure C. Thank you.